Peter Dutton, the head of the Liberal Party here in Australia, he says that when he gets elected as the Prime Minister or the President of Australia, he's going to make us all get rid of all of our renewable energy projects and simply build huge numbers of nuclear power plants here in Australia. He believes that's the only option for Australia, and he's trying to convince everyone that that is true. The CSIRO says that that is all a complete load of bullshit. And they have used facts, which Peter Dutton doesn't like, because he doesn't like facts, it seems, to show that actually nuclear is a terrible idea for Australia. In fact, renewables are so incredibly useful here in Australia and so incredibly powerful that we just set new records last week for renewable energy generation in Australia. Here are the numbers behind the truth of what's happening and why wind, solar, and batteries can power all of Australia without a single nuclear, coal, or gas power plant. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. I personally have solar in my house, and I know that millions of others do as well. In fact, we now have about 4.1 million households with solar panels on their roof, which is a pretty big number considering the fact that there's only about 15 million houses. That means nearly 1 in 3 houses in Australia have solar on their roof. And for good reason. Solar, it's never been cheaper. Not only has it never been cheaper, but it's never been as efficient as it is today. In addition, the panels last longer than ever. It's an absolute no-brainer. It'll save you at least $50,000 over the lifetime of your solar system. The CSIRO annual Gen Cost report has shown, as it has done since its launch under the coalition government in 2018, this is a government department, that integrated renewables, meaning solar, wind, and batteries, are by far the lowest cost option for Australia. And why does this matter? Well, we have to replace our old gas-fired generators and our coal power plants. How should we replace them? What should we do? Should we replace them with nuclear power plants or with renewables? What do you guys think? The CSIRO's report for 2025, released on Monday, says that prices of both solar and battery storage have fallen again and are now lower than they were before the global price spikes caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In fact, I don't believe this report is entirely accurate. I believe it's understating just how much the cost of those technologies has fallen. Battery storage has shown the most dramatic cost reductions, down 20% in the last 12 months alone, while solar has fallen another 8%. Wind prices continue to rise, but the increases have slowed to just 2% in the last 12 months. And prices apparently have peaked. Now, the reason I'm not really sure that these battery prices numbers are 100% true is because battery prices have actually fallen from over $90 per kilowatt hour 12 months ago to $51 per kilowatt hour today. Research from Bloomberg NEF confirms that fall. That's a decline in the cost of batteries by 51% in 12 months alone. Now, I know battery storage is not just the battery cells themselves, but I don't believe that battery pack prices would have only come down 20% if the batteries themselves have come down by 51%. That said, it does mean, either way, that solar and batteries are by far the lowest cost option for Australia to replace our aging fossil fuel power plants. The report found that renewables continue to have the lowest cost range of any new build electricity generating technology for the 7th year in a row. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, batteries, I've been told by people on the media, my mate Jim Smith down the road told me that batteries only last for 5 years, or mate, they only last for 10 years. They're a disgrace. You have to replace those things. Well, that is completely false. In fact, batteries now, while the biggest battery company in the world, CATL, who Tesla uses to build their batteries as well, their cells, they have a guarantee of 25 years. And considering they have an expected lifespan of closer to 35 years, well, yeah, that's not really true, is it? The report also found that inflationary pressures continue to ease, but the impact on Earth Technology's unique raw material inputs and supply chains remains mixed. gas prices have risen. But this is because most new gas generators are being made hydrogen ready, which has added to costs. So actually you're paying more for your electricity if it comes from gas, because those gas power plants are being made hydrogen ready for whatever reason. Now, considering the fact that hydrogen investment in Australia has recently been given a big blow by Japanese companies who have decided to cancel those plans, I'm not too sure how that's going to play out. The Director of Energy at CSIRO, as per reneweconomy.com.au, said GenCost provides objective cost benchmarks using the best available and verifiable data. GenCost's annual update delivers database forecasts that support informed decision-making across the energy sector, he said. And the forecasts show that battery prices will continue to fall. Now, these forecasts, I think, are incredibly conservative. The truth is, battery pack prices are believed projected to fall from around $51 to $53 per kilowatt hour today to around $10 to $15 per kilowatt hour in 6 years' time. That's what Tony Seba has predicted, and he gets most of this stuff right. But the CSIRO said, we ran the numbers to see what renewables would look like when we include all the sort of firming costs around transmission, storage, system security, spilled energy, and we sort of stack all these costs up and we see how that looks, said CSIRO. A bit of an increase in wind, but some decreases in solar in batteries. The cost of renewables with firming is still sitting around $120 per megawatt hour in the short run and $82 a megawatt hour towards 2030. In other words, they're projecting the cost of renewables will fall from $120 today to $82 by 2030, which is a massive decline. Now, the costs of nuclear have not changed. In fact, they've increased every year for the last 10 years. So that means that that renewables are much cheaper than any alternative. Graham from the CSIRO says that the next cheapest technology would be unabated coal and gas. But of course, why would we want that when it's the next cheapest and it's massively polluting at the same time? Obviously, if you're going to use that for the bulk of our energy and we're trying to reduce emissions in the sector, we're not going to be able to build those. It doesn't make sense, in my opinion. The next cheapest technologies are sort of coal and gas with some abatement. So with carbon capture and storage, there aren't a lot of plans to build those in Australia. And why would we? After that, after coal and gas, the option is nuclear. So in other words, renewables are the cheapest. That's followed by coal and gas. That's followed by nuclear. That means nuclear is the most expensive type of energy we could possibly use here in Australia. Nuclear power plants on average also run over cost by an average of 300%. That's the average over the last 15 years of building out nuclear power plants in all countries worldwide. Cost always spirals. In addition to that, the time frame to build them usually takes much longer than companies promise. On average, they take 10 years longer to build than what is initially forecasted, which is pretty damn insane. However, here's the big kicker. The costs of battery storage are coming down so much, says reneweconomy.com.au, that the CSIRO is modelling longer duration batteries, even out to 48 hours. Not that it has any real expectation that the technology will be needed for that kind of a gap, but they wanted to put it into their modelling. Now, reneweconomy.com.au says that most attention will go to the technology that very few people believe can be built in Australia before 2040. Nuclear, which is being pushed with a lot of force by the federal coalition, one side of a government here in Australia. The fossil fuel lobby are pushing it as well. So are right-wing so-called think tanks and the Murdoch media. Now, I don't know about right-wing think tanks. I don't think it makes sense to label them right-wing or left-wing or whatever the hell. But it's true that this is being pushed. There is an agenda, and it's simply to fight against what the left are doing. I personally am not either left or right. I don't believe I am anyway. But it's also true to say that there are some aspects, some parts of the right wing that are simply saying nuclear is the only choice. We should cancel all the renewables simply because they want to be contrary and say the left are a bunch of morons. Sometimes the left are morons, but in this case, the left got it right. renewables are the most logical solution. The draft sets aside a remarkable amount of space assessing a technology not currently available in Australia, nuclear, and specifically to address the complaints against it brought by Federal Coalition leader Peter Dutton and the nuclear boosters. It assesses each of these claims and dismisses them all. The bottom line is that according to Graham, large-scale nuclear is sitting 1.5 to 2.5 times the cost of firmed renewables, and small modular nuclear reactors are 4 to 6 times higher. In other words, small modular nuclear reactors are dead in the water. They are way too expensive. Now that doesn't include the anticipated 100% premium for a first-of-its-kind build in Australia. In other words, nuclear would add hundreds of billions of dollars of cost to the Australian grid and would take decades for it to actually be built. Federal Energy and Climate Minister Chris Bowen says the latest draft Gen Cost report confirms what energy experts had been saying for a long time. The most affordable path to deliver reliable energy in future is simply renewable energy and storage firmed by gas and pumped hydro. Now, I personally don't think gas in any form is needed in the Australian electricity grid whatsoever, because I think this report really understates the coming declines in cost for solar and battery storage, and the massive improvements we're seeing with the latest generation batteries being able to last much longer and have much higher energy density than previous generation batteries. The former coalition government left Australians with a power system in need of urgent repair and exposed to offshore price shocks, said the Bowen government. They ignored the experts and refused to take advantage of our abundant sun and wind, leaving households paying the price of having a grid that's too reliant on expensive, unreliable, aging, and I should personally add, polluting coal. Now, under the guise of Peter Dutton's nuclear scheme, they continue to try and keep our energy grid in the dark by promising to build the most expensive form of energy 20 years from now. It's not fair to consumers, and it's not a serious solution to keep the lights on and bring prices down this year or this decade. In my opinion, the absolute solution, yes, we have mega batteries being built all over Australia. Yes, we have solar farms and wind farms. Those are key. But even more important than that is when the 4.2 million homes have electric cars and their own batteries, vehicle to grid, that will transform the grid. That will take away those 4 million houses who will no longer need electricity from the grid at least 90% of the year. If you add to that, get another couple of million people with solar panels and EVs that suck up that extra sun during the day that isn't needed in the house, and then generate that power at night time, we could potentially have the solution right there.